Welcome to the Top Order podcast. It's World Cup daily time again, day 2 of Cricket World Cup 2023. It's breakfast time in New Zealand. It's dinner time where I am here in England, so we can't call it World Cup breakfast, but I guess it is if you're down south. We're going to talk a little bit about Holland versus Pakistan and the aftermath of that opening game as well, New Zealand versus England. A bit of dengue fever and other talking points in the early stages of the tournament. Stay tuned. Well, boys, luckily, it was my birthday yesterday, and I didn't join the call. I was out for a birthday dinner, and perhaps pretty good timing from my perspective in hindsight after that New Zealand-England game. You boys still basking in the glory of you, or have you come down a little bit after your giddy euphoria on yesterday's show?
Oh, I'm still pumped, mate, but I don't think I was pumped enough. I got a text from Raj at about 6 o'clock yesterday when he was watching the highlights and giving me a bit of stick for not being excited enough.
But I watched the highlights of that batting innings, and I said, I'm ready to go for a net now. It was that good. The batting, I love seeing good batsmen playing well, and very hyped for that win. It's good to break the stalemate and actually get a W over the English rather than the standard ties in World Cups.
And Stu, I think we mentioned obviously in off air just a few minutes ago. I guess we didn't cover all of the talking points that might have arisen out of that game in more general terms about the effect of the conditions, the pitches, what we're going to expect in terms of scores throughout the course of the tournament. I guess it's still very, very early to tell. But before we get on to the Netherlands-Pakistan, which was the game today, where do you want to go with those comments around conditions and past scores, etc. After the first couple of games of this World Cup?
Yeah, well, I think the scores thing kind of segues nicely to this Netherlands-Pakistan game because it was interesting. I mean, when we were talking yesterday about the England game, the England game, the New Zealand game, you kind of watching it going, this is an absolute road when England was batting. They were scoring at will, really. It was really hard for them to kind of tie them down. Henry and Santner did a really nice job, and that sort of built some pressure, caused England to give away some wickets, I think is fair to say. But still, they ended up with 280, sort of, without that much trouble. And it was very similar for Pakistan today. They got into some trouble against the Netherlands early on, 30-odd for 3. And then they were able to just build a partnership. And suddenly you build that partnership and the runs, go... Even though this pitch actually looked trickier to score on than the England-New Zealand game, they were still able to kind of make 280 relatively easily. And I think about that last World Cup, everyone was talking about big scores and, all of that kind of stuff. And it never really eventuated, not to the degree that we thought it might. So, but the start of these first couple of games, as you say, it's very, very early. It feels like maybe, 280, you're going to have to score 280 plus in a lot of these games if you're going to want to win. Whereas, last time it seemed like you could kind of get away with 230, 240, 250 and bowl well and still be able to get a W.
I do think the conditions are an interesting sort of topic to talk about because I think that this pitch, the Pakistan-Netherlands one, is more characteristic of what we'll see for the start and middle of this tournament. And I guess it's a reason I'm not getting so hyped about the New Zealand victory yesterday, is that's not the pitch that they're going to play on when it comes to the playoff games, post the round robin. I think the pitches will be slower, lower, and suit more of an Indian style of batting and play into their spinners as well. What did you make, Binksy? I asked Baldy yesterday to kind of look at the English performance yesterday from your perspective. He tried an accent; it didn't quite work for him. Are you worried about yesterday's result? I guess the biggest point for me would be around the impotence, perhaps of the bowling.
Yeah, so look, I did listen to the pods until Baldy attempted that accent, and then I turned it off. So I've not listened to all of your comments. Your question really is, am I worried about England? And the answer is no. I think if I kind of look at the game, and I managed to watch all of the game. I was off yesterday, and sat with my younger brother and watched the majority of the game throughout the course of the day. So saw pretty much every ball. And I think if I look at the performance, you can't deny that the Black Caps were dominant in that game. You've obviously got almost 2 runs net run rate bump, but it could piss down in the next game. There's so many variables. And then, look, I think from an England perspective, I'm not really that worried. The reality is, in the last World Cup, I think we were kind of 6-3 and obviously made the finals. I think a scoreline of 6-3 or 7-2 and a bit of rain is probably going to get teams through into the course of the latter stages of this tournament. And I think it's that age-old adage, don't get too carried away, with euphoria, but then also don't get too down on yourselves when you lose a game. And I think that's the mantra that England are going to be taking to this. Is it a speed bump? Yes. But did the team that was in last year's or the last edition's final beat the other team that was in the last edition of this World Cup final? Absolutely. But I'm not really too concerned for the future of the tournament based on one game, on a pretty good wicket that did get better throughout the course of the game. And I think England's bowling was where we were really sort of let down. I think a little bit of a little bit of rustiness, particularly with the seamers, Wokes and Wood, would be my take on it. So not overly concerned.
How about as we move to this game, Binksy, Pakistan was someone that, or was the side that you predicted is going to win this tournament. Bit of a scratchy start for them. Obviously, I just mentioned, they were 38 for 3, ended up getting their way to 280, but even still, a couple of bumps on the road on the way there. I think actually, it looks, you look at the scorecard and it looks very sort of stock standard easy win for Pakistan, but I don't think it was quite that. They had a lot of, probably nervy moments along the way. Again, we're talking about the first game of their tournament. Anything you've seen in the way they lined up today, the way they performed today that has backed up your claims or given you any pause?
Again, look, I think at the start of the tournament, you want to win. And, if you win and you're a little bit rusty and you've got things to work on, I think that's probably a good thing, rather than, potentially winning, really, really easy. If you kind of want to look at taking some positives or negatives even from yesterday's game, only 2 guys got a bat really for New Zealand. So, how's the form of the rest of the guys? And look, I say that firmly tongue in cheek, but if I look at this, we talked in the previous show a hell of a lot about Babar Azam, Fakhar Zaman and Imam, I think, as key players at the bat. None of them got runs. Granted, Mohammad Rizwan's, been in pretty good nick the last couple of years. He got a score. Saud Shakeel, who's looked really good as well over the last 12 months, got a score. But I think ultimately that was a real, it was a potential banana skin. And particularly when you look at the run rates, Pakistan scoring at 5.5, something like that, nearly 6 and over probably. My maths is terrible. But then I think from a Netherlands perspective, if they'd have just had one more contribution, skipper getting a duck, for example, probably didn't help. If they'd have had one more guy who got 30 odd, there'd have probably not been a massive amount between the two. So I think the most important thing for Pakistan, I think, is getting the win in these early stages, and probably coming out of it unscathed from an injury perspective. And if you do that, I think you're going to be pretty happy as you work your way into the tournament. So I think, as you alluded to, the scoreline in this game probably looks as if it was a lot more straightforward than it was. Vikramjit Singh got Netherlands off to a really good start, batted really, really positively, hit some, some pretty imposing boundaries. So, look, I think that they'll take a little bit out of this game. And look, potentially, they've said they want to make the semi-finals. And I guess, if you're coming into a World Cup, you've got to have that mentality. You want to win the tournament. But I do think the Netherlands could, actually prove not to be a potential banana skin, but someone might actually slip up on them throughout the course of this tournament.
Yeah, I think if you're Pakistan, you're happy that you've done what you need to win this game. They're in trouble early. They'll be a bit disappointed that Rizwan and Shakeel didn't go on and one of them at least post a bigger score, 3 figures, to get them home. But the real sort of kicker for me is that last partnership between Nawaz and Shadab Khan. That actually is the difference in this game. That 100 odd almost 100 runs, I think it was, just under, that they did to close out that game was where the winning and losing happened. With the Netherlands, they put themselves in a position to win this game. Even with the bat, they're in a great position through those middle stages, but unfortunately the middle order there let them down when they had those flurry of wickets through the sort of mid-20s or mid-20 overs there. But I think they'll be happy with the foot that they put forward, both with the ball and with the bat, and it'll just make them hungrier to win the next one.
Yeah, I mean, we're 38 for 3, and then at that point for Pakistan, Saud Shakeel, pretty much runs one to slip, doesn't get taken. Ayan Dutt started the innings for the Netherlands. I think that'll be something that a lot of teams will take away. He bowled really, really well at the start to those two left-handers, and other teams might see that and think, okay, well, that's something we can potentially exploit. It certainly won't surprise me if that's the only time that we see, an off spinner come and bowl to those two Pakistan left-hand openers. So I think that's something that a lot of teams will look at, and Pakistan will also be looking at and going, okay, well, if that's how teams are going to attack us, what can we do? And then, as you say, the Netherlands were 120 for 3. They were in a position where you're looking at, just they'd built that platform that they needed to then kick on. They go into 20 overs to go. They're 150. They'd lost 5 wickets, but you need 130 from the last 20 overs. That's very, very, not. I mean, I sort of want to say that's easy these days for sides with wickets in hand. So if Harris Rauf doesn't come in and chip those couple of wickets away, the Netherlands are in a very, very good position to win that game. So yeah, like you say, I think they'll obviously be disappointed that they didn't win that game, but I think they'll be pretty happy to think, we've pushed Pakistan pretty hard here, and we're going to be a tough out for every single team in this tournament, and we've got a real opportunity to try and pick up a couple as we go forward.
Should we talk a little bit
Boys,
about conditions?
If we're looking ahead, yeah, sure. What I mean, I think that the interesting thing about the conditions is that as we go on, we're probably going to see a bit more from all the different places. I guess that's the part that, as we're sitting here, 2 games in, we haven't really seen, all the different venues. And I think today we're going to see the first day game, and I suppose how that kind of changes the situation, because there aren't many day games in this tournament. They're only the double headers are the day games. So there's not, and I could be wrong, but I think most teams only probably play one day game as they go out, and you would think that that's going to have a big bearing on things so far. You look at those. I mean, even just thinking about the crowd numbers have seemed quite low, but it appears so hot, obviously, when during the day, and that's going to have an impact on these teams when they're playing these day games. So what actually, just while I mentioned crowds, what did you guys make of all of that? There's been a lot of talk about the disappointment, but then I've seen some numbers saying that that crowd, New Zealand, England, I don't know how realistic, whether this is actual sales or one of those. Sometimes Raj and I go to the Warriors and or not this year. This year's been completely different, but we've been to the Warriors at times, and it's been what appears a very small crowd, and then the crowd number actually comes up, and it seems a good few thousand more than you actually see when you look around the ground. But the England New Zealand game, 47,000, I think it said, but you're watching it on TV and it looks like just no one in the ground, and today looked no different for Pakistan Netherlands.
The problem is that anything unless you get 100,000 people at the Narendra Modi Stadium, it's got to look empty anyway. You've got nothing to compare it to from a size perspective. It did look like the crowd was a little bit low, but I don't think we should judge this until we see the India-Australia game in a couple of nights' time and see what the crowd looks like then. I think once India plays a game, it'll kickstart the crowd. There is some interesting sort of news coming out around ticket sales, when they're going on sale. So a lot of the Indian games are not actually on sale yet. So it's interesting to see what that looks like. Does anyone have any idea actually? Sorry, Stu, you're on mute.
Yep. No, sorry, boys. Carry on. You just carry on. My 2-year-old just stormed into the room. I had to send him off.
I thought you were cutting me off. My question was, does anyone know the ticket sales? Are they controlled by the ICC or the host country in the World Cup? Does anyone know that?
Good question. Maybe one for us to unpick
I
tomorrow.
don't know that, sorry.
Let's unpick that tomorrow. So we'll do a bit of research. Yeah, look, my 2 cents worth of, on this is, I think there's, and this has been said, they've missed a massive trick with India not opening the tournament. I think if the hosts open the tournament, it's a big bang. There was no opening ceremony as far as I'm aware. So, I think they've missed a real opportunity. The only way there was, 44,000 in attendance yesterday is probably if they were counting the limbs of everybody that attended, because I reckon there was probably about 10 or 11,000 there. They've just times that by 4 for, forearms and legs per person. And that's got the number. And then I think the other piece is that apparently from an administrative perspective, it's not, just not gone smoothly in terms of ticket sales and logistics for the tournament so far. And I think, when you look at the fact that the grounds hadn't been confirmed 3 or 4 weeks ago, the schedule was so late coming out, it's got to be really, really difficult. But to Raj's point around, the Modi Stadium being 100,000, if that had been opening game at the MCG, you'd have thought it would have been full. Certainly, every single ticket was sold in the, in the Cricket World Cup, in the UK, particularly for the bigger games. Yes, there were probably some attendances where it was some of the smaller nations playing, but certainly if you'd have got an England-New Zealand game at pretty much any other stadia in the UK, I think it would have been sold out, and I think you'd find the same pretty much around the world as well. So disappointing not to see a bunch of people in the grounds. I guess on the conditions, Lip and Raj, it's early in the season, isn't it? And I know India's a big country, but there's been a lot of weather around. So all of the pitches that we're going to be playing on are early season pitches at these stadiums. So I think you're going to see them be as dry, so not as dry. You're going to see them with as much moisture as they're probably going to have throughout the course of the tournament. I think as we get further through the tournament, I think we'll see more and more spin. But then I think the venue for tomorrow's game in Dharamsala, is going to be one of the cooler places to play. I think it's at altitude. I think you'll see fast bowlers blowing a little bit. But you'll probably then also see the ball go a long way and Nick's carry for the seamers as well at that ground as well. So I think that's the beauty that they're going to play at some very, very different venues, and it's probably going to be the likes of Chennai where we see a bit more spin maybe. So look, I think that's going to be really, really good for the tournament, and for the teams that get through to the final stages will have had to play in really, really different conditions, and that should that's good. That's a test of of the teams that want to be on the podium at the end of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. But before we kind of finish up, is there anything else people want to touch on this game? I did want to just give a shout out to Bas de Leede. Awesome performance from him today. Picked up 4 for with the ball. Absolute ripper to pick up Mohammad Rizwan. And then, as you were saying, him and Singh were going along really nicely there. Put the Netherlands in a really nice position. So a shame for him to have such an impressive, pick up 4 for, get 67 and come away on the losing side. But I think he's held his head up high. And actually, when I was watching him and watching the Netherlands in general, and even just thinking about the sides all throughout the tournament. Raj made a point yesterday about Rach and Ravindra being, all the IPL sides are going to be watching him, and I think that's something that we don't sort of think about as much for sides like the Netherlands. Maybe the IPL sides aren't going to be lining up after this tournament. Maybe they are. Hopefully they are. But there's so many leagues around the world now. Guys are playing for their opportunities to for their livelihoods, really putting themselves in the shop window. So yeah, really good performance from Bas de Leede, and yeah, hopefully this kickstarts his tournament and he can crack on.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's a great shop window for all of these guys. So I think, as well as the collective performance for the Netherlands and them wanting to, create some upsets through the course of the tournament, I'm sure there'll be a few guys, definitely looking at maybe CPL deals or Big Bash deals. And who knows, they might get themselves in that auction room as well for the IPL, which, will be great to see. Talent represented from a number of countries, as we've seen really with a few of the Afghan and even Irish guys, the likes of Josh Little getting picked up, Mohammad Nabi, obviously Rashid Khan playing all around the world as well. So yeah, I think good for the Netherlands boys, definitely. Might get a little bit of craw in the bank over the course of the next couple of years. Guys, I think unless we've got any other components, Raj, anything you want to wrap up on? You got one thing?
Just one more thing, just going back on the ticketing sales. They've just announced, as commencing tomorrow, the online ticketing platform for the ICC World Cup. So
better late than never.
There'll be more ticket sales going forward and people can get to the games.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, look, we'll keep an eye on the crowds over the course of the next few days. So, as we mentioned, I think the game tomorrow kicks off. I'll get the times wrong for our New Zealand listeners, but 6 p.m. in New Zealand, 6 a.m. In the UK, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, match 3 of the World Cup. We will be back most days throughout the course of the tournament. If you do want to pick up some points and brownie points, join our cricket draft league. So I think links on our social channels on Twitter. Anyone who had Bas de Leede has got a few points today. So good for you if you've got him in your side. He was a value pick, I think, around about 92,000 of your budget would have been spent on him. I've made that up, by the way, but it was certainly in that region. So have a look on the socials if you do want to join the Top Order Podcast League on the cricket draft. I think all 4 of us have got teams in. I promise I might even try and change my captain at least once throughout the course of this edition of it. I think the last time I just picked my squad and let it rot. So jump on the socials if you want to find that out. If you do want to raise any points on the social channels as well, please do jump onto Twitter, Instagram or YouTube. Leave us a comment and we'll try and cover it on the next edition of the show. Anything you want to see in these daily wrap-ups, please do let us know. We'll, of course, be talking about the cricket in action, but try and pick up on some of the off-the-field stuff as well. But for now, it is, I was going to say good night and God bless. It is good night and God bless from me here just outside London, but it's good morning and kia ora from the guys on the podcast in New Zealand, sitting in their dressing gowns in Auckland this morning. But we'll be back tomorrow with more World Cup news. Thanks for listening. See you soon.